And first of all, let me just get your perspective. Is there any merit at all for these protests? What many of the protesters are saying is that the move will be inflationary, the fact that we'll have a 5,000 naira note. And of course, we know that several other African countries are putting out new currency. In fact, I think South Africa just did the same. Your thoughts on the reasons for this protest? Are they is there any basis to it at all?
Well, right. People have fears, about the likely negative effects of the new denomination. But I think that the fears are unfounded. They are just illusions. Redenominating your currency has nothing to do with inflation. What affects inflation is the value of money you are spending, whether you are spending more or less. If you need to spend ₦1 million, for example, it has nothing to do with inflation, whether you use 1 million pieces of notes or you use 100 pieces of notes. All that the 5,000 naira note is going to do is that it will enable you to hold fewer pieces of notes for whatever level of transaction you want to carry out. And I think that's a very positive move. That's a necessary move. That's a move that I have advocated for like 15 years. Right. It was the same advocacy that brought the 100 naira, 200, 500, and 1,000. And I think the 5,000 is coming late. And I don't think this should be the last move. I hope that we'll eventually see 10,000 naira and 20,000 naira. It would be good for Nigerians.
So you will say this is a natural progression for currencies, considering the impact of inflation on spending patterns, etc.
Well, it's a positive move, and it is not going to be inflationary. But I do think that the central bank, the Nigerian government should have announced these denominations, perhaps from the day the naira was introduced, but say that they are not going to be introduced into circulation until it becomes necessary. Because I think that's what other countries do. Once you fix the decimal structure, you actually let them know that large denominations exist. For example, £500 in England, which is not released into circulation, but it might be if it becomes necessary. So that we don't get a debate and we don't get protests each time you want to release a single denomination.
All right, so in other words, you think we could have planned this better?
We should have announced, that just as you have 1 naira, you could have 10,000 naira, you could have 20,000 naira.
No,
but
I think
we are not introducing 20,000 naira into circulation yet. So the day you want to introduce it, people know that it already existed.
All right. Okay, I think perhaps this actually reminds us of developments several years ago where we saw the former governor of the central bank planning to redecimalize, I think that's the correct term, the naira. Can you just speak to the difference between redenomination and redecimalization? Because I think there were fears at that point, and I do remember that the government was against that at the time.
Redenomination is a very simple and flexible process. It could move either way. You can introduce larger denominations, and you can bring back, smaller denominations. For example, England phased out the £50 note in 1943.
Right.
After the Great Depression.
Right.
That, saw deflation. £50 became large to be reasonable to carry. But by 1983, inflation had eroded prices so much that they brought it back. That's the denomination. It doesn't change anything. Whereas decimalization knocks off decimal points from the face value of your currency. It's for currencies that have collapsed.
Right.
For example, the Zimbabwean dollar or the former cedis, where you need to pay millions just to have a meal. Instead of you wasting your time just writing repeated zeros, why don't you knock some of the zeros off? And the naira is not yet in that region at all. So there's no need to redecimalize the naira, which was why the Soludo proposals were suspended.
Right.
There's every need to redenominate. All healthy currencies, go through natural phases of redenomination as prices either go up or down.